What's up, A to Z Sports here live on a Thursday. Going to have a good show talking a potential ex-Titans GM Jon Robinson being back in the division as he is set to interview with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which I think is a very interesting storyline if it comes to fruition for what would be a mulligan opportunity for J-Rob to be back in the NFL as a general manager, and then also what that could mean for the Titans, because a lot of people, I think, are going to try to take a big old dump on J-Rob getting back into this. It's an easy, low-hanging fruit joke, but I don't think that should be the reaction from the majority of Titans fans. But Sam, we'll talk through that. Then we'll discuss three veteran quarterbacks that could be options for the Titans. Which of the three has the highest win ceiling in 2025? So we'll dive into those three. We'll go through that. And then it's Thursday, which means take two on sports trivia. How did you guys do with sports trivia? Because I had a dentist appointment yesterday, so I was out doing things. So I did not catch trivia. Did everything go smooth?
We got 9 answers correct. We had to use our mulligan, and we finished in just over 4 minutes. So
you went fast, but you used the mulligan.
Not too bad. There was a tough one about like Spanish techno music that we misfired on.
Yeah, I wouldn't have helped there.
Enrique Iglesias.
Oh well, I mean that would have been the one name.
The one name.
Yeah.
Well, that was not the answer of the question. It was looking for a song title. I did sleep at all. I did get like 10 hours of sleep, but I was feeling a very bad sore throat and sickness sort of coming on yesterday. So that's why I got the extra sleep. But the show must go on. So bear with me, chat, here today. If you said I've got my late night
late night R&B radio DJ voice going.
Yeah, that's what we're rolling with today. So I did sleep. I feel my brain feels a lot better than does. Yeah, like this part of me hurts a lot. This part very sharp this morning. So don't get that twisted.
That's good. That's good. All right, let's get this thing. Well, first you got to tell people what they got to do before we officially get going here.
Yeah, before we get into it here, we're talking Jon Robinson. And if I know Titans fans, I know that when Jon Robinson gets talked about, all we do is give thumbs up. So it's time for you to hit the thumbs up button and like the show. If you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and hit that like. YouTube, hit that like. If you're on Facebook, hit the share button as well on the bottom right. Get it out on that timeline. Take the YouTube link, send it to a Titans fan or a group chat in your life. You can also repost us on the Twitter X timeline as well. Get the word out that A to Z Sports is live and Jon Robinson is back in the AFC South. That's something that you got to spread the word on here before we kick it off on a Thursday morning.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome in the A to Z Sports here live on a Thursday. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Sam Phelan, one of our Titans reporters for A2ZSports.com. And we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Link to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors. They make it happen for us, and they help out all of you. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon or online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com, the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. TDOT is out there trying to make sure that we keep our state beautiful, and you can join in to help out at nobodytrashestennessee.com. And Bart Durham Injury Law, our new friends there. A crash can change your life forever, and help is just a click away at bartdurham.com. So Sam's got his raspy voice on, doing the late night DJ set for the R&B station in your local area on FM radio right there. But no, we're going to dive forward and fight through that. And then hopefully Sam can get some rest on the voice for the next couple of days. And so, all right, we're going to talk about this because Jon Robinson is set to interview for the Jacksonville Jaguars GM job. This was Jordan Schultz who put this out yesterday afternoon. Sources, the Jaguars will interview former Titans GM Jon Robinson for the open GM position. Robinson also interviewed with the Jets earlier this offseason. And so It's interesting, Sam, because you guys were at the Senior Bowl a couple weeks ago now, and there was rumblings that J-Rob was there, and I heard others in the Titans radio sphere saying that he was doing his due diligence, that he was out there watching practice, talking to everybody, networking, getting back into the thing, and watching this upcoming draft class. And now Jon Robinson, who did not get the Jets GM job, is interviewing for the Jags GM job, and for a chance for him to be back in the AFC South, which I think is an interesting situation overall. Now, the Jags are really dragging their feet on this because Valentine's Day is tomorrow, and they don't have a general manager. And the combine is like 10 days away from today, and the Jags don't have a GM and are just now adding to their first time interview list with Jon Robinson. So, Sam, what's your overall thought on the Jags situation as a whole and the timing that they're going through because of all the Trent Baalke mess that happened in January?
Yeah, I mean, my brain immediately goes to Trent Baalke and this mess that the Jaguars have created for themselves. I mean, it was one of the things. There are a few things that I think you always want to avoid if you are ownership, and one of those things is uh, emotional decision making and lack of patience, and the other one is inconsistency and indecision. And what we sort of saw here in Jacksonville is Shad Khan very indecisive about what was best for his franchise and his inability to pull the trigger on Trent Baalke, then resulting in a delay in the coaching search, then resulting in him needing to circle back and actually fire Trent Baalke, has now put his organization in a spot where you are not really getting a chance at any of the top general manager candidates that are out there. The guys that you are interviewing are some just sort of like bottom of the barrel names that are looking for an opportunity to get back into the league. And you're not even able to do due diligence because you put yourself up against the clock with the combine. And regardless of if they get this done by the combine, the Jaguars have also taken a very significant step back in the delay that has happened here, where they are behind every other NFL team right now in terms of starting the pre-draft scouting process. Now, do they have scouts who have started that? Absolutely. But you don't know what new GM is going to come in and what their process is going to be like. We just saw with the Titans, they brought in Mike Borgonzi, who sort of has this the language that he speaks that Chad Brinker also speaks, and this is what they're now teaching to their scouts in terms of player evaluation and discussion. And it is a process that I'm sure took a few weeks for them to really get down, so that when they were able to dive into the 2025 draft class, they're able to all be on the same page, using the same evaluation system, and begin those conversations, while then getting to go down to events like the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl to supplement some of the data that they've already gathered. The Titans told us at the Senior Bowl as well that they were about to begin 17 straight days of meeting with players. So they're about halfway through meeting with players right now in this stretch of days. And here are the Jacksonville Jaguars without a general manager to conduct any of this stuff. So no matter how you slice it, I think the loser of the offseason already is the Jaguars. They've already botched their coaching search. They've already botched their GM search. They've already gotten their head coach made fun of. And now here we go. They seem like they are behind the rest of the league in scouting the incoming rookies.
Yeah, for sure. I want to get to the chat because Jeff is clearly not a very good reader, because he says it's a misleading topic title, because the topic in the title of today's show is not misleading whatsoever, Jeff. And I've seen you've comment this a few different times.
Yeah,
but
how is that? How is it misleading?
I'm not seeing how saying ex-Titans GM Jon Robinson interviewing with the Jaguars sets up an interesting mulligan chance, because there's nothing misleading about that. That is exactly what's happening. And I tagged at the end with what my opinion is. And so Jeff is, on his, soapbox or whatever you want to do. You're misreading something. That's on you. That's not on the title. There's nothing misleading about that. Jon Robinson has not gotten the job yet, but he is interviewing for the Jags job. That is something. And I do think it's interesting too.
And he's viewed as a serious candidate. Like J-Rob is being viewed as like a legitimate candidate right now for this job. That was the consensus, is that he was pretty serious about getting back into the league, which has obviously not been something that he's done since leaving the Titans. And so I would put it at definitely a non-zero chance that he ends up being the new GM of Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think he's a good candidate too. And I know this about Jon Robinson. He was at the Senior Bowl doing his due diligence work. And then I also know that going back to like the holiday season, Jon Robinson was kicking the tires on learning everything he could about the college game, because in college football, they have general managers now that are doing more of the evaluation management, and also there's money involved with NIL and having to manage players off the field too. And so there's more of a GM role in the college game over the last couple of years. And Jon Robinson was interested in learning what he could about the college game as he's trying to get back into the NFL and into football as a whole. So Jon Robinson returning to the NFL as the potential Jags GM is very interesting. So I want to ask this question to the audience and get you guys involved here. What's one word to describe Jon Robinson interviewing for this GM job? What is one word to describe Jon Robinson interviewing for this Jags GM job? Because I really want to know what you guys think about this. If he lands back in the AFC South and you play him twice a year, how do you feel about that as a Titans fan? Because you guys are obviously a Titans audience here. So what's one word to describe how you feel about Jon Robinson interviewing for the Jags GM job? Well, I tell you guys about our friends at the Bart Durham Injury Law. Crash can change your life forever, but help just a click away at bartdurham.com. They are always ready to fight for whatever car accident you get into. And Bart Durham Injury Law, their fight for justice is that big truck wreck. You can learn all about big truck wrecks. You can learn all about how to avoid those big truck wrecks when you're on the interstate, the highways, driving at night, making sure that you stay safe around big trucks for your safety and their safety, their blind spots. You can learn about them with their blogs at bartdurham.com. You can also always find an attorney who's available to chat with you, whether it's virtually or in person in the Nashville area, because they've been serving Nashville and Tennessee as a whole since 1975, when Bart Durham opened the business's doors. And now Blair Durham, his son, Marine veteran Blair Durham, and great Nashvilleian, is running the show after Bart's passing last spring. So whenever you need help, Bart Durham Injury Law is right there for you online at bartdurham.com.
Don't forget to leave a like on the show. Go ahead, hit that thumbs up button, leave a like on the show. That's a good way to support us here at A to Z Sports. So if you are intrigued by the idea of Jon Robinson ending up in Jacksonville, just go hit that thumbs up button. Not enough people have liked it so far. For the people that are currently tuned in, we're keeping an eye on those numbers. So let's get those likes up here.
Yep, absolutely. So, Sam, I saw you the face when you took whatever the sip of the whatever you drank was very interesting. The voice not feeling great, so I'm guessing the coffee is probably not going well with the vocal cords that are sore.
No, yeah, it's a necessity. It's a necessity at this point, but it's not enjoyed.
All right, so one word to describe Jon Robinson interviewing for the Jags GM job. Sam, I'll see you in the chat. What are you seeing from the one words that people are tossing out there this morning?
We are seeing words like great, privilege, glorious, danger, irrelevant, hilarious, sensational, payback, perfect, redemption, irrelevant, Duval, revenge.
What do we
lovely.
have here? We got a little Duval.
Duval. Improbable, careless, interesting, jaggerific, dysfunction, confident, unbothered, meaningless, bogus, a bogus interview, says Rashid. So yeah, we always have the Duval ready, Bork. We have it on cue at all times in case we need to to let it rip, and it will probably stay in our assets folder for the rest of time. So,
yes, especially if Liam Cohen is not a good head coach. It is more likely to leave our folder if he is
the
a
Jags
very
are
good.
winning games, if the Jags
Yeah.
are winning games, we don't care about Duval
Because then it's no
anymore.
longer funny.
Do you have a word that jumps out to you that comes to mind when you think about this one, Austin?
Yeah, I was gonna go with redemption, but somebody in the chat stole it. So I'm gonna say revenge because I think Jon Robinson would love an opportunity, not just a mulligan chance to be a GM again in the NFL, but to like the extra level of sauce on this opportunity of doing it in the AFC South against the Tennessee Titans, who fired him out of Amy Adams Strunk rage of losing to AJ Brown and the Philadelphia Eagles in the link in December of 2022. Yeah, I think Jon Robinson wants some revenge here. And so I think this is honestly, we don't really see GMs get second opportunities like we see coaches get second opportunities, which I find weird. And I wonder if that's going to change soon, because normally if you're a general manager and you get fired, you did something very wrong and your resume has a lot of holes on it or in it. But the same thing's the case if you're a head coach, yet the head coach second opportunity guy is viewed as, oh, he gets an opportunity to learn from the mistakes that he made the first go around. But why can't the GM guys get that too? Why can't GMs get an opportunity to learn from what went wrong the first go around? Because Jon Robinson was very good until he was very bad. And it was very clear of when that split was. And Ashley said this earlier, drafting Caleb Farley, Isaiah Wilson, and trading AJ for Burks should be reason enough for him to never be handed the keys to a franchise. And I understand that. That's the last three drafts that Jon Robinson had ended up with Treylon Burks, Caleb Farley, and Isaiah Wilson. Really, really bad. Really, really bad. Like as bad as of a 3-year first-round draft pick run as you could possibly think of. But his first 3 to 4 years were very good. And you have to think about where the Titans were when he took over in 2016. They also held the number 1 overall pick until he traded it to the Rams. The Jags are not very good right now. They have a high pick in this draft, and they have a chance to start from the bottom and grow. And the best thing that Jon Robinson did was take a franchise that had no direction, had no talent, and no identity, and helped build it into a football team that gained and acquired young talent, veteran talent, and created an identity and won a lot more games. And he's got a quarterback with Trevor Lawrence. And so I think this is the right spot for Jon Robinson to go if he takes over as another GM role. So I think it's revenge is where I'm going to go with that. Sam, what do you think about my one word of revenge and then just the overall situation?
Yeah, I think Jon Robinson would obviously love the opportunity. I think revenge would be the word that comes to mind for him. I did look back at Jon's resume with the Titans before this morning's show.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, I don't think he was as good as we remember him being. I think there is like an idea of Jon Robinson was a good GM and then he traded AJ Brown, and people obviously associate all of those draft picks that happened late. I don't think he was particularly good in the draft either. He had one draft class to me that really stood out as being a success story of a draft class. And the rest of it is a lot of misses, especially with high draft picks.
Okay. And
So I
Eric
pulled up.
says that he agrees with Sam in the chat.
I went and pulled up his draft. I went and pulled up his draft history, and it's his first draft, the 2016 draft class, where he comes away with Jack Conklin, then Kevin Dodd and Austin Johnson, but he ends up with Derrick Henry, Kevin Byard in that draft class. So Henry, Byard, and Jack Conklin all in the same draft class really established a core for the team moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
He inherited Taylor Lewan. He inherited Marcus Mariota, who was his starting quarterback for a little bit. A lot of the other big impact players on the Titans, he spent big money on at different times. I go to 2017. He used a top 5 pick on Corey Davis, which was a big miss. Used a first round pick on Adoree Jackson, which was a miss. Used a 3rd round pick on Taywan Taylor. Got Jonnu Smith, which was a good draft pick. Jayon Brown in the 5th round. Corey Levin in the 6th. Josh Caraway, Brad Seaton, Khalfani Muhammad. 2018, he uses a 1st round pick on Rashaan Evans. Good player for the value that you got out of that inside linebacker. Not a good 1st round draft pick.
And let's remember, because context is important here. Like when they drafted Rashaan Evans in the 1st round in 2018, there was not a starting job available on the roster. Like they were going to the outside of inside linebacker. Like the only starting job that you could draft at 22 or 26, they moved up to 22 to get him. That it was a need thing because of, hey, you're drafting in the 20s and this guy could be a day 1 inside linebacker starter and the only hole that you have.
In 2018, so Evans, he did get Harold Landry in the 2nd round at pick 41, only had 2 other picks that year, and Dane Cruikshank and Luke Falk, because he traded away all of his picks. He hits in 2019 with Jeff Simmons and A.J. Brown, Nate Davis in the 3rd, Amani Hooker in the 4th. That's a very good draft.
David Long in the 6th.
David Long. And then he goes immediately down the Isaiah Wilson, Christian Fulton, Darrington Evans, Larrell Murchison, Cole McDonald, Chris Jackson draft class in 2020. Goes for Caleb Farley. There's 1 to 2 draft classes out of, I would say if you were grading out of 6 classes, he had 2 good ones and 4 really bad ones. So I think, when he hit on stuff, he hit with guys that became core pieces of the Titans' future that helped him in a lot of ways.
Now, let's also remember he traded for DeMarco Murray out of the gates that set up the foundation of the football team.
That was kind of a bad trade, though.
Why was it a bad? No, it was not a bad trade at all. They swapped picks in like day 3.
Oh, that's all they
and
gave
DeMarco
up.
And DeMarco Murray came in and led the AFC in rushing that year, and Marcus Mariota won 9 games before he broke his leg.
I didn't realize that was all it was a pick swap.
Yeah, it was a pick, and then that was a big move.
But along the time that he was also doing this, like for every there's a DeMarco Murray trade that was great. There's obviously the obvious of paying Julio Jones and paying and making all of these moves.
Eras. It's pre-COVID, post-COVID. Like that is literally the Jon Robinson.
He didn't draft well pre-COVID either.
He did though.
Sam, before 2019, his first 3 years.
2016 was a good draft.
He had 3 good draft picks in 3 years.
3 very good draft picks in the 2016 class on top of trading some assets for the future and getting DeMarco Murray that same year.
He also paid Vic Beasley. He
again post-COVID. It's a very clear line in the sand on good Jon Robinson was pre-COVID. COVID happened and everything went to hell. And that's the case. Like he traded for Ryan Tannehill that saved the franchise when Marcus Mariota was
paid Ryan Tannehill,
and paying Ryan Tannehill wasn't a bad move. It was a $29 million a year contract for 4 years.
People outside of Tennessee,
Ryan Tannehill
outside of Tennessee knew that paying Ryan Tannehill was bad when they did it. But you kind of didn't. I guess they didn't have a choice, right?
You just went to the AFC Championship game, and you had 12 games of Tannehill starting, and you were very good with those 12 games and won 2 playoff games. So you kind of had to pay Tannehill and extend Henry, and you did that. So it was a very good first 3.5 to 4 years, and then COVID happened, and it was awful after that. And he deserved to be fired because Jason's saying, Austin, I didn't think this is the hill you want to die on. J-Rob was horrible. No, you guys are only remembering the last 3 years. Jon Robinson took over this team when they were combined 5-27 in back-to-back years, and then they only had winning records
But they had
And it was
also, because
bad
they were
at the
5
end.
and 27, they had draft picks for like that were already on the team. They had good young players already on the team that he was able to inherit and build around. Like I think when I look at the resume of Jon Robinson and the wins and losses, he looks a lot better than I think he does on paper. And by the way, when he was let go, and the Titans hired Rand Carthon, I did research on Jon Robinson's Titans versus what Rand Carthon had been doing with the 49ers and what the 49ers had done. And the Titans were dead last in the NFL over Jon Robinson's tenure as GM as approximate value gained per dollar spent. He was the worst general manager in the sport at spending money in free agency and getting bang for his buck in free agency. All of this while being shooting less than 50% on like draft classes of having good draft classes. But because he had a few really good draft classes and because he inherited a really young team and he had an awesome head coach in Mike Vrabel, you ended up with a few seasons of like winning a lot of games that I think reflected better on Jon than I think I would now if I looked back at his resume.
But Jon Robinson also was a part of the decision making to move on from Mike Mularkey because they thought Mike Mularkey hit his ceiling to go get
that was a very good move, and it was criticized.
He gets credit for that. He gets credit for that.
Totally.
And again, somebody's like, yes, Bud Dupree was a bad draft, was a bad signing post COVID. Again, all this stuff post COVID was terrible. And here's why I think this is why I'm talking about it right now, because Jon Robinson, once the Titans got to the AFC Championship game, he risked all. He changed the way he went about it. He wasn't overly aggressive until then, and he got cocky, arrogant, all those things, and went too far and made a lot of bad decisions 3 years in a row. And he lost his job for it, deservingly so. But that's when they had that success and he went for it and risked and gambled and went overly aggressive and it bit him in the ass. If he gets this Jags job, he's not starting in 2020 offseason out of the AFC Championship game. Let's risk it to take it all the way. He's starting in 2016, taking over a terrible football team. Right now, he has a quarterback right now, and there's a rumor that's spreading around the Steelers are interested in Trevor Lawrence. I don't know what that means or who knows, but like Jon Robinson is starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have more talent going into 2025 than the Titans had going into 2016.
I would agree with
that. There's
that.
no doubt about that. The Jags are way more talented right now than the Titans were when Jon Robinson took over. So he's starting from a low bar. I think if you're the Jags, Jon Robinson's a good person because he's done this before. He has taken a team from the bottom of the NFL and made them relevant. His struggles was the next step after that. So Jon Robinson knows how to clean up a mess before he kicks the mop bucket over and creates a bigger mess.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think I would have a little bit less belief in it. I do think you are right in the sense that Jon's biggest issue, especially late, was overconfidence, right? And a little bit of cockiness. And I can't help but wonder what is different about the Titans as an organization and Jon Robinson as a GM if they don't go on that run in 2019. If they don't make a run to the AFC Championship game and Jon is not feeling like they're knocking on the doorstep of the Super Bowl, what exactly is different? Does he have a little bit more patience in his building process? Does he be a little bit more conservative with the way that he pays and views Ryan Tannehill? Does he look to take less big shots in the draft and actually just look to like supplement his roster? And how could that have affected the trajectory of the Titans? I'm not sure. But I also don't have a ton of confidence either. Like, I also don't know if like COVID Jon Robinson can be ignored. And I think in the sense that like, I don't think he gets a pass on just having like, oh, there's pre-COVID Jon Robinson and post-COVID Jon Robinson, and he's going to go to the Jaguars and he's going to be pre-COVID Jon Robinson. I think there's a chance that the guy that we saw post-COVID and for a couple of years pre-COVID is also just Jon Robinson, that he's a bad talent evaluator that sort of got lucky on a few classes and hit a couple of home runs with a guy like Derrick Henry or a guy like A.J. Brown. And
yeah, but he also got Kevin Byard wasn't invited to the NFL Combine. And they went and found Kevin Byard, and they went to MTSU
right.
and spent,
No, I get
right.
that.
So like,
but for every
there's
Kevin
other
Byard,
things.
for every Kevin Byard, there's like a swing on a guy that nobody's ever heard of that you end up going, John, what the heck?
But he also drafted like
But
however many day 3 inside linebackers who were legitimate dudes. Like,
sure. But how many drafts did he do? 7? 8?
7. Yeah, 7.
7 or 8 drafts. I think he's got 2 hits in like 2 good draft classes out of all of those drafts. So I think the norm would tell you that he's more of a bad drafter than he is a good drafter. And I do think that there would be he's also would be going to Jacksonville, not picking his head coach, inheriting a quarterback, all of the things that I think set up a team for failure most of the time.
But that's what he did in Nashville. He went to the Titans and inherited a head coach, inherited a quarterback,
Fired
and they were able. Yeah, like 1 year for the head coach, it was a different situation. But Malarkey got 1 year with J-Rob. They made the playoffs, or 2 years with J-Rob. They made the playoffs once, and then Marcus Mariota wasn't the guy, had a ceiling, and he couldn't break through.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if I'm betting over or under 2.5 years that Jon Robinson would be the Jaguars GM, I would take the under. I think he'd get fired pretty quickly.
Yeah, and look, he's got to get the job first. But so my one word was revenge. Did you say what your one word on Jon Robinson interview? Desperate.
To me, who? This is from the Jaguars. I mean, I'm not going to blame Jon for wanting a job, wanting to get back in the GM chair. But if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars with where you thought you were, I did a Jacksonville radio show about 2 months ago or a month and a half ago, right at the end of the NFL season, previewing the head coaching carousel. And when I presented the idea of maybe the Jaguars settling for an Aaron Glenn or a Liam Cohen in head coaching searches, I was kind of getting laughed off the air. People in Jacksonville were telling me that they were going to get Ben Johnson or they were going to get Mike Vrabel, because why wouldn't those guys want to go to Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence? I brought up Trent Baalke. They thought that it wouldn't be a big deal, that Shad had reassured everybody that it would be fine. And I think what you've started to see is the Jaguars slowly but surely get a little bit more desperate, because they've played themselves and put themselves in a really bad position. And now you're interviewing the failed, defunct GM of your division rival because you got that desperate.
Yeah. But I also think, like, why can't Jon Robinson learn from that? Why he can learn from that. He can understand the mistakes that got him fired, deservingly so. And can he not improve? But that's what
that's where I disagree, though, is I feel like it was more than 1 or 2 mistakes. I feel like it was more than a philosophical thing, in the idea of, next time you have a player like AJ, you should pay him. Right? Like, I don't feel like that is the thing that got John. I mean, it's the straw that broke the camel's back. But the reason that the Titans were in that position was not because of a certain philosophy or a certain mistake. It was the fact that he made these mistakes consistently. He always got it wrong in free agency. He consistently got it wrong in the NFL draft. He let guys like AJ walk away. It was like everything that you can get wrong as a GM, he got wrong, especially during those last few years. And I don't think you're able to just flip a switch and be like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I think if you don't see it and you don't evaluate the talent well, you just don't see it.
There were 11 things after Jon Robinson got fired. We went back and compiled 11 bullet data points that led up to him getting fired, and AJ was the 11th. I think the majority of those 11 points, I don't remember all of them, but many things led to a firing. right? That's how rarely does one thing happen that leads to a firing, right? So if I could wrap up all of Jon Robinson's mistakes and categorize them into one thing, it's he had success, he gained more power, and he was not very good at the use of that power. And I think he let that go to his head, which resulted in all of these bad decisions. And so I think what he can learn from is not letting that success and power go to your head and getting arrogant, cocky, complacent, a combination of those three to lead to more bad decisions. That's what I think he can learn from in the next job, right?
I would agree with that.
So, anyway, and Adrian brings up a point. The Patriot way thinking got him fired. I think there's something to that, is that I can go find somebody better for cheaper and younger because I've done that before. And he eventually could not do that enough and had bad replacements for guys that he let go. So, all right, let's move on from Jon Robinson. We'll see what that interview plays out like and what happens with the Jags GM job. But Sam, we got quarterbacks to get through here in this next conversation. And there are three veteran quarterbacks that we want to pin against each other. Which of these three veterans has the highest win ceiling for the Titans in 2025? So we're going to use Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, and Kirk Cousins. You wrote about Derek Carr yesterday. We've talked about Aaron Rodgers and Cousins throughout the last couple of weeks. But which of these three veteran quarterbacks has the highest win ceiling for the Titans in 2025 between Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, and Kirk Cousins? We'll let you guys have your comments roll in here momentarily. But first, I'm going to tell you guys about our friends at the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, just like in football, you have to have that team you can rely on to get you back to health. And the Bone and Joint Institute can do all of that right there in Franklin off of I-65 and Highway 96, next door to Williamson Medical Center. They've got the resources, the experts, the support staff, great parking, easy to get to, right off the interstate. The Bone and Joint Institute has all of that to help you handle whatever the injury is that life throws your way and get moving back into life. They've done that, helped me out the last couple of years where I've had some ailments to work through. And you can book an appointment online when you need them, boneandjointtn.org.
All right, don't forget, share the show this morning. So hit that share button in the bottom right corner if you're watching on Facebook. Take that YouTube link, send it to a friend, to a group chat. Find a Titans fan in your life. If there's questions among people about what the Titans might do at quarterback or what the veteran QB options are, we're about to get into that. So share the show. That's a good way of helping us out. You can also go to Twitter X, hit that repost button and get that out on the feed to let people know that A to Z Sports is live and we are getting ready to talk Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, veteran QB options for the Titans in 2025. Share the show.
All right. I will send you the chat. Which of the three veteran QBs has the highest win ceiling for the Titans in 2025? I'll also put up a YouTube poll. The three options are Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, and Kirk Cousins. So, Sam, I'll toss you into the chat and let you see what people are saying. Then we'll get some data here on the YouTube poll.
Daniel says Derek Carr, Carr from Kevin Leonard as well. We got Carr, Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, 100%. Carr from NM Titan, from Darius. Orlando says Carr 1, Rodgers 2, Cousins 3. Kenneth has Rodgers at 1. IR Hoshi has Kirk Cousins at 1. Caps has Cousins would be the best mentor for Shador or Cam Ward. A good mood, Aaron Rodgers, which is a funny qualification there. Chris says Rodgers. William says Carr. Eric says Kirk. Rodgers, he's actually healthy and he's better than Carr and Cousins. We've got Lewis saying he's going off the board for Will Levis. I like Carr. I'm simply not sold on Darnold. I wanted to post Cousins, but my comment was intercepted. A shot at Kirk there. Sean has Cousins at 1. Matt says it's Kirko Chains. We've got Andre pushing back on Rodgers, saying he couldn't help a more talented Jets team. Bearded Canoe says Carr. Joshua says Carr. Yuri says Rodgers. So I think the top two answers are probably Rodgers and Carr. But Derek Carr, I would say, is the most popular choice among the chat.
All right. So David asked this follow-up question. Why are we talking about win totals in a rebuilding year? I think this absolutely matters. Because you have to still win. And like Brian Callahan has already burned his bad season as a head coach where he can pass it off on rebuilding and the quarterback was the problem, not me. You have to win. And you know, you guys had the conversation yesterday about the Texans where they passed on a quarterback with the number 1 overall pick in 2014 and drafted Jadeveon Clowney. And you and I talked after you guys were off the air of like, what surprised me the most is that the Texans had 3 9-7 seasons and 2 playoff appearances with the combination of Fitzpatrick, Ryan Mallett, Case Keenum, TJ Yates, Brian Hoyer, Brandon Weeden, Brock Osweiler, and Tom Savage before they even got to Deshaun Watson. Like, that is crazy, is how they were able to make the playoffs 2 out of those 3 years with how many different quarterbacks is that? 7 different quarterbacks playing games. So you've got to be able to win if Brian Callahan wants to keep his job. And if you're going with a veteran quarterback, does that mean you're going to go somewhere else with the number 1 overall pick, whether you trade it or take Carter or Hunter? So yeah, winning matters. And so it's how can you establish good culture and keep that growing and rolling with the rebuild happening simultaneously. So I think winning absolutely matters in this.
Yeah, this is the NFL, not the NBA. You need to see wins even in rebuilds. I totally agree with it. I think job security is so volatile in the NFL that you need to win games. You need to show significant progress. We can all go into 2025 with realistic expectations that the Titans likely will not make the playoffs, that they're not contending for a Super Bowl. But if you are the Titans coaching staff, you have to at least show signs of progress and stepping stones towards all of those goals. And what quarterback you bring in is going to be paramount to that success that you need to show. If they are complacent with a rebuilding year and bottom out like they did again, I'm not sure many of the people making these decisions are going to be around for the next run. So if you're Brian Callahan, if you're Chad Brinker, I think it absolutely matters how you approach the QB decision this offseason and how you give yourself the best chance at winning some more games.
Totally. And I saw somebody say that the AFC South was garbage back then. MB said that we was weak back when the Texans were able to do that. And Bill O'Brien, that was his first 3 years as the Texans head coach. And so you have to be able to win something. So you wrote about Derek Carr yesterday on the site and about whether he is actually going to be available or not. Can you lay out the scenario of what might be happening in New Orleans as Kellen Moore takes the reins?
Yeah, so the Saints recently hired Kellen Moore as their head coach. Kellen Moore, who has a bit of a complicated history with Derek Carr, only in the sense that they actually played each other in college. When Kellen Moore was the quarterback at Boise State as a senior, Derek Carr was a sophomore at Fresno State. The number 5 Boise State Broncos just blew out. It was like 55-7, something like that. Blew out Derek Carr's team. Derek Carr did not play well in that game. Kellen Moore went off in that game. Obviously had his NFL stint right after that. Derek Carr had a couple more years at Fresno State, developing into a much better QB prospect that went in the second round eventually, and has now had a very nice 14-year career, whatever it is, in the NFL with the Raiders and the Saints. There was a rumor a while back, a few weeks back, from Diana Rossini that Kellen Moore was potentially not going to take the Saints head coaching job because he wasn't overly impressed with the quarterback room in New Orleans. A direct shot at Derek Carr and Kellen Moore's thoughts on Derek Carr. Outside of that, it's no secret that Carr has sort of this big cap hit, this big contract, and the Saints potentially getting out of that sooner rather than later would allow them to have flexibility, cap flexibility sooner rather than later for a team that is otherwise kind of in cap hell a little bit. So more comes in. The immediate question is Derek Carr going to remain in New Orleans? Some people believe that Moore is going to want to try and wipe the slate clean. You're going to want to, go younger, play Spencer Rattler for a year. I who knows, right? But you can try and get cap flexibility. You can tank for a year. Kellen Moore is not going to get fired after 1 year, given the state of the team that he's walking into. And then you have an opportunity to draft a quarterback and really start building in year 2. That is one line of thinking. The other line of thinking is that, well, cutting Derek Carr right now doesn't really save you much immediate money against the cap anyways. So for all of those reasons, he probably will end up as the QB1 in New Orleans at the start of 2025. It's sort of a mixed message right now. The idea is that New Orleans is evaluating the state of their roster, and Derek Carr is the quarterback and will make a decision about his fate here in the next few weeks. It's a decision they're going to have to make before free agency becomes available because of just the logistics of how that works in the league. If Carr is cut by the New Orleans Saints, he now is in what I would call the Kirk Cousins tier of quarterback, where he is getting paid by his previous team, big money, would be available in free agency for vet minimum, essentially, like a very small contract where you would not have to pay him because he's getting paid elsewhere. And it would present teams like the Titans with an opportunity to do exactly what the Steelers did with Russell Wilson this time last year. The Steelers signed Russell Wilson, who is getting $40 million from the Denver Broncos. And so now you bring in a veteran, but you bring a veteran in that raises your floor as a team without really costing you anything against the cap. That is sort of the hypothetical that exists here for why the Titans are being affiliated with Derek Carr. Is this world where does he, and I mean, this exists for all three of these guys, right? Which is why I think they're in the same conversation here. Cousins is almost for sure going to get cut because of the Michael Penix situation in Atlanta. Aaron Rodgers, at least from what we've heard, is not going back to the Jets. And if he decides to play in 2025, perhaps he's being cut, perhaps he's being traded. Who really knows? And then you have Derek Carr, whose future is now up in the air once again.
So when it comes to what the Titans would want, and I've seen some interesting comments coming through here from Titans fans. Andre, so Glenn wants Rodgers out, Moore wants Carr out, yet those two are being considered options for the Titans. God help us. Gene says, yeah, I'm completely out on Carr. Don't need to take on the contract or lose any of the capital. That was, before Sam explained the overall situation. And I think it's, if you're the Titans and you don't know yet on these rookie quarterback options, you got to find a way to improve your situation. And Derek Carr has got a ton of connections with the Titans organization, from the coaching staff to the front office, to where maybe that's a good option for you to bring in. And so when I go to the poll, which of these three veteran QBs has the highest win ceiling for the Titans in 2025? I think Derek Carr has the highest win ceiling. Aaron Rodgers is way older than both Carr and Cousins. Cousins and Carr are both coming off injuries because Derek Carr did not get benched for Spencer Rattler. Derek Carr was hurt, just like the entire roster for the Saints was hurt. And Spencer Rattler showed some things that the Saints apparently like or are interested in seeing more of. And Kirk Cousins, I've actually, Easton kind of flipped my mind on this a little bit more. Kirk Cousins was more hurt than I think we realized at the end of last season. So maybe I still don't think Kirk Cousins is the great answer, but I think of these three, Derek Carr is my option. And James Claus says, go get Stafford. And Dean's Dead Inside says, Stafford's the only one guy I want. And that's why Matt Stafford's not in this list of options, because everybody would go Matt Stafford instead of the other three. So, Sam, I go Derek Carr. Where do you go on this? Carr, Rodgers, or Cousins?
I'm on Derek Carr as well. I find Kirk Cousins interesting. I do, because I do agree with that idea that he was more hurt than we realize last year, which I think affected the way a lot of people view him. I would not be surprised at all to see Kirk Cousins sign somewhere and have a really good year in 2025. That would not shock me whatsoever. Both Cousins and Carr, I think, are attractive because both would come on very small contracts, provided they're cut. And here's the thing that I want to get across to our fans in the chat here this morning. Signing Derek Carr or signing Kirk Cousins does not prevent the Titans from drafting a quarterback. You could very well draft Shedeur Sanders and also have Derek Carr on your team and have this veteran now who is your starter immediately with a rookie in waiting. And for Carr or Cousins, that's the stage of your career that you're at, right? Like, you have to prove it before you're just given a starting job. You have to compete before you're just given a starting job. And maybe it goes well with Carr or Cousins under center and they start for an entire year and you sit your rookie and let them develop. And I think that as much as you might be clamoring for that rookie to play, that's not the worst thing in the world that could happen. Perhaps it starts poorly, and then 3-4 weeks into the year, you make the change and you get the rookie quarterback in there regardless. So Cousins is interesting because I do think he was hurt, but why Derek Carr? Well, Carr to me, and honestly, Cousins, you can make this argument for as well, because the Falcons actually won games with Kirk Cousins. Both Cousins and Carr were 500 as starters. And Cousins had a little bit of an injured streak. He lost 4 in a row towards the end. There was a 4-game stretch where after he got hurt, it was New Orleans, Denver, the Chargers, and the Vikings that he threw 8 interceptions and 0 touchdowns, and they lost all 4 games. Prior to that, 8 interceptions and 0 touchdowns, Kirk Cousins was 8 interceptions, 17 touchdowns on the year, and had the Atlanta Falcons at 6-3. Derek Carr went 5-5 as a starter for a really bad Saints team as well. Like, when Carr was playing, the Saints were not terrible at all. They scored 35 points in 3 games that Derek Carr started. That was against Cleveland, Dallas, and Carolina, granted, but they were actually much improved. They lost by 2 to Atlanta on like kind of a last second thing. They lost by 1 on a last second field goal to Carolina. They were a more competitive football team, I think, than their roster would make you think they were with Derek Carr at quarterback. So I do think you can win with either guy. I think the fact that either guy would be coming on that small contract and would not prohibit you from drafting a rookie as well is attractive. I will say Carr just because I think I am more confident that Derek Carr is healthy than I am Kirk Cousins is healthy, but I could probably go either way.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to the YouTube poll and update that because Derek Carr is the leader of this. He has 50% of the votes. Aaron Rodgers is second with 31 and Kirk Cousins third with 19.
I would go Kirk Cousins above Aaron Rodgers for sure.
Yeah, I would too. Now
only because Rodgers, I don't know how easy it's going to be to get him. I think his numbers, I'd have to watch a lot more Aaron Rodgers tape. I think his numbers are a little bit deceiving from what I remember. Like, I remember a lot of games that he was just awful in the first half, and you'd come away with it and he'd have 2 touchdowns and no picks, and you'd be like, oh, decent game. But it was a game that the Jets were never really in.
Yeah. So there's one reason why I pick Carr over Cousins. And there's also another thing that I think a quarterback like Derek Carr can do for the Titans organization in this rebuild situation. I'll tell you that, but real quick, TDOT is trying their best to clean up our state and keep Tennessee beautiful by trying to find a solution to end the littering across the state. By going to their website, nobodytrashestennessee.com, you can find out how you can pitch in by changing your bad habits, realizing that you might have bad habits that are not helping out the cause. You can also find out how to get involved by joining local cleanups in your area, litter cleanups on the roadways and parks in your area. Also, you can get your kids involved with some good volunteer experience, as they might be needing something like that as they through school or whatever it might be, extracurricular activities for them. And TDOT makes it easy by going to nobodytrashestennessee.com. That's nobodytrashestennessee.com to find out how you can continue to be involved in our community, keep our state beautiful, because there's 80 million pieces of litter on the roadways, and TDOT spends like $20 million a year cleaning that up, and it's still a massive problem. So jump in. We all need to help at nobodytrashestennessee.com.
Today's show is brought to you by, it's not brought to you by anybody. You just told them who it was brought to you by.
I just told you about TDOT.
Yeah. Well, then I need to tell everybody, listen, you've liked the show at this point. You've shared the show at this point. But have you subscribed? If you're watching on YouTube especially, I need you to go and check for me, because if you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We just passed 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we need a little bit more. We need a little bit more of a pump here at A to Z. It's an exciting time to be a Titans fan. We are churning out content every single day here at A to Z Sports on the YouTube account that is talking about the Titans draft picks, about the quarterback debate, about what they're going to do in free agency, about how we feel about the coaching staff. We are talking about all of the hot topics that make it fun to be a Titans fan right now on YouTube every day. So you need to hit that subscribe button and keep an eye out, because it's not just live shows like this, right? We do these in the mornings, and these are great, but Easton Freeze is coming out with video series where he's doing interviews about the Titans. I'm coming out with daily videos as well, giving you my hottest takes and opinions about the Titans ahead of using the number 1 overall pick in the draft. So you need to make sure that you're subscribed so you know when those things are out there. Hit that subscribe button and help us out on YouTube.
Yeah, and Lumain says 5 stars. The Lumain 5-star effect. Okay, so Sam, the biggest reason I like Derek Carr over Kirk Cousins is that Derek Carr is more mobile at this point in his career than Kirk Cousins. And I think you have to have a little bit of that when you're behind the Titans offensive line. I'm not saying Derek Carr is the best athlete out there, but I think he's more physically capable with his bottom half than Kirk Cousins is. The other thing, I think this is the big deal when it comes to Derek Carr, is I think if the Titans get Derek Carr, there's also an objective that the Titans have to accomplish. Last year it was do everything you can to find out the answer on Will Levis, right? Like that was 2024's motto from us. This year, I think you can say do everything you can to find out about Brian Callahan. Like, is Brian Callahan going to make this? And I think Derek Carr, as your quarterback, will tell you if Brian Callahan can make this or not.
Yeah, I think that'll be a key. Sorry to cut you off there, but I think like raising the floor of the team. Why does that matter? Well, one of the reasons it matters is because if you raise the floor, right? If you give, not that we're saying Derek Carr is going to win you playoff games and take you to Super Bowls or anything like that. But Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, whatever, but even Derek Carr last year, right, on a bad Saints team, went 5-5 as the starter. He went 9-8 the year before, 6-9 the year before that, 10-7 the year before. Over the last 4 years of his career, Derek Carr is he's a game over 500 in 59 NFL regular season starts. 60 something, it's in that range. I don't, whatever.
Yeah.
You now would be bringing in a quarterback that can at least elevate your floor and is capable of playing 500 to slightly above 500 football. I think it was easy in 2024 to say, well, Will Levis is a problem, right? Will Levis is a problem. We've seen Derek Carr on bad teams at least float and tread water. And so if you bring in Derek Carr, it is now putting the burden on Brian Callahan of saying, all right, you have a quarterback who's capable of keeping you in the mix. Do it. And it's a guy that he's worked with before. And that is the thing that I think we haven't talked about is guys on the Titans coaching staff who have worked with Derek Carr before. Head coach Brian Callahan worked with him in Oakland. Offensive coordinator Nick Holtz worked with him in Vegas, Oakland and Vegas, both. Quarterbacks coach Bo Hardigree worked with him with the Raiders. Assistant to the head coach, Tom Jones, was with the Raiders for over 20 years. New executive, Reggie McKenzie, is the general manager of the Raiders that drafted Derek Carr. Assistant GM Dave Ziegler is the GM that traded away Derek Carr with the Raiders and is also the GM that reunited with him in New Orleans. So there's a lot of history and relationships and comfortability here for Carr. And I think that would give you an answer on whether or not Brian Callahan is capable of taking this thing to the next level.
Well, I think it's where I'm, because Gene asked, like, how is Derek Carr going to, Carr has 3 winning seasons his entire career. How's he going to help Callahan evaluation? Because I'm not evaluating Brian Callahan completely on wins and losses, because we know it's a rebuild. Winning more next year is very important. But I think it's, how does Derek Carr operate Brian Callahan's offense compared to how Will Levis couldn't? Like,
maybe the defense sucks, but like, do they score points?
Yes. Like, can they score points? Can they be efficient? Can they execute and can they run a system? That is what Derek Carr would show you. Can Brian Callahan call good plays with a quarterback who can execute? Because we don't know if Brian Callahan was a good play caller or not, because the quarterback wasn't executing at times the open decisions, or the offensive line was a saloon door turntable and wasn't allowing that play to develop, right? So there's situations that go on with that. But I think Derek Carr allows you to get a better evaluation on Brian Callahan.
I would agree.
And so David says, wait, you said Callahan has to win.
He has to win more. He has to win more.
Like,
Brian Callahan doesn't need to go 10-7 to keep his job. But if he goes 8-9 and takes a 5-win progression and the offense is scoring points, if he goes 7-10, 4-win progression, the offense is scoring points, it's a stepping stone. I think that is the recipe towards him keeping his job. But if he goes 5-12 or 6-11, like, I don't see it happening.
And I'm sure once we get post draft and we know the free agency haul, we know the draft class, we will probably sit there and say, is there a pass fail, a fired or stay, win-loss
And I'm
record?
sure there will be. Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's go ahead, Sam, and wrap up this Thursday show with a little trivia, and let you get on your voice rest for hopefully the rest of the weekend. So now it's time to turn us to a little sports trivia action. Here we go. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process. You can go see them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Sam, are you ready for trivia? I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, here we are. Trivia time. Hopefully we get no Spanish pop music that neither of us know.
No MLB today. Womp womp.
NHL is always tough. All right, let's start with NFL and we'll go around the horn.
Tatum Bell and Ruben Drogans had 1,000 rushing yard seasons for what AFC team during the 2000s?
That would be the Denver Broncos.
I would say Tatum Bell's Denver.
That was the string of Mike Shanahan Broncos running backs.
Characters embark on a journey through space and time in this 1962 young adult fantasy novel that was written by Madeleine L'Engle and later adapted into a 2018 film starring Oprah Winfrey. I have no clue.
Denise, I'm not anti-Spanish pop music. I just don't know trivia about that.
Wrinkle in Time, Land of the Lost, Wheel of Time. Wrinkle in Time sounds more right.
Yeah, I would say Wrinkle in Time sounds.
A Wrinkle in Time.
Hey, we're getting another wheel. Oh, okay, it was right.
This British actor had a major role as Stringer Bell on The Wire, played Charles Minor on The Office, and has the lead role in the series Luther. This is Idris Elba.
Yeah.
The Gramercy Riffs, the Baseball Furies, the Lizzies, and Turnbull ACs were all gangs from this iconic 1979 action thriller film.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not like The Outsiders. Is it like The Warriors?
1979. David says Warriors. Matt says The Warriors.
Yep. The Warriors. Bang. First charting in 2019, this singer-rapper had hits with her songs My Type, Tap In, and Best Friend.
Oh no.
It's what's her name?
Best friend. I can hear best friend, but I don't remember right now.
No. Oh, what's her name? Saweetie. I think it's Saweetie.
Yeah. Sean King says Saweetie.
Introduced in 1997, this brand of vodka features the French flag and a bird's logo on the logo of its bottles. Is it Grey Goose? I have no idea. Is Grey Goose even vodka?
Grey Goose that young?
No,
Grey Goose. Is it really that young?
All right, people are saying Grey Goose.
Man.
All right, dang. What player is currently leading the NHL in goals? Leon Draisaitl.
What is this? What is this current NHL trivia here?
Leon Draisaitl.
I don't even know who that person plays for.
Okay,
I don't.
He's like a top 5 player in the league.
Well, I would assume so if he's currently leading the NHL in goals.
He's on the Oilers with Connor McDavid. After his run with the Lakers, Derek Fisher signed a 6-year deal with this Western Conference team. I think this is also the Warriors.
Now he would.
He did play for the Mavs. Who else did Derek Fisher play for? The King. Did he ever play for the Kings?
KC? No, he never played for the Kings.
No, I think he did play for the Thunder, but that was super
Rockets?
late. I don't remember him with the Rockets. I do remember him with the Warriors, and I remember him with the Mavericks.
The Suns? We're getting so many. I mean, this is a 6-year deal, though. So, like, who did he sign with? Oh, good. Ashley says Warriors as a theme.
What was the theme other than the other
Warriors
being the Warriors?
I don't know.
That was my gut, but I don't know. We are literally all over the place. OKC, Rockets, Jazz, OKC, Suns, Mavs, Denver, Suns, OKC, Jazz. He played with the Jazz. I don't know. You call it.
Utah. Let's go Jazz. Chase says Utah Jazz.
Ooh.
That's on Chase. Oh, dear God.
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell for sure.
And Katherine Heigl.
I can see Katherine Heigl. Yeah. I think that's Katherine Heigl.
How do you spell Farrell? There it is.
That way. Okay, double dip it. Man. I think it's the Mavs.
I mean, it could be any of those teams. Warriors.
I just visualize the Mavs. I don't think he went to the Warriors because wasn't Matt Barnes?
Did he win a
on the
championship with the Mavs though?
Matt says we should go Warriors because of Ashley's theme idea.
Well, is there a theme elsewhere? Broncos. I mean, like, it's literally just the one Warriors. I don't see any sort of theme. What if it's a trick question and it's the Lakers again? Yeah, you know?
We already guessed Jazz, Marco.
All right, you call it again. I'll go with you.
Mavs. Final answer.
Ooh.
Damn it. What is it? The Warriors.
Yeah, that was my gut.
Brutal. All right, Sam. Voice
tough
rest
morning.
Time it is.
Tough morning for trivia. For trivia.
100%. All right, guys. That's it for us here on this Thursday. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, 5-star Google review, all of it right there with A to Z Sports. We'll be back tomorrow morning for a Friday show. Buck Live tonight for prime time. We'll catch you guys later on. Appreciate it as always.